The cold emptiness of space stretched out endlessly. Stars twinkled like distant diamonds against the black canvas of the universe. Far from any known star system, a sleek silver ship drifted, its lights flickering weakly. The ship was badly damaged. Smoke rose from a broken engine and alarms sounded in a soft, desperate chorus. Inside the ship, an alien woman struggled to stay conscious. Her skin shimmered faintly under the flashing lights, her large eyes flickering with pain and fear. She was alone, left behind by her own people, abandoned in the void. Her name was Lyra, and she was once a warrior of her kind. Now she was nothing more than a fragile survivor. The ship's hull cracked open suddenly, and the silver woman was thrown into the cold vacuum of space. But the ship was falling fast toward a nearby planet, a small, rocky world with little atmosphere and no signs of life. Lyra's body tumbled through the air, but a small energy field around her slowed the fall. She hit the ground hard. Dust and small rocks scattered in every direction. Lyra lay still for a moment, her breathing shallow, her body weak. Around her, the barren landscape stretched out, gray rocks, dry hills, and a sky that seemed heavy and dull. No trees, no rivers, just silence. Far above, in the quiet of space, a small human ship moved steadily. It was the Endeavor, a vessel sent from Earth to explore unknown parts of the galaxy. Inside, Captain Ethan Cole checked his instruments. His eyes narrowed as he saw an unusual signal blinking on his screen. "It's a distress call," he said, quietly to himself. The signal was faint but clear. Someone was calling for help on the nearby planet. Ethan was a man who had seen many dangers. He had traveled through asteroid fields, navigated storms on distant worlds, and faced creatures no human had ever met. But he never turned away from someone in need. He ordered his ship to change course, heading toward the source of the signal. As the Endeavor approached the planet, Ethan looked down. The rocky surface was harsh and empty, but near a crater, a small shape moved. Ethan's heart quickened. He knew he had to act fast. He landed the Endeavor carefully, kicking up clouds of dust. The air outside was thin and cold but breathable. Ethan stepped out, his boots crunching on the rocky ground. He carried a small medical kit and a scanner to check life signs. The shape moved again. Ethan saw her clearly now. A woman, unlike any human he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered like silver, and her eyes glowed softly in the fading light. "Hello?" Ethan called gently. "Can you hear me?" Lyra's eyes fluttered open. She looked at him with surprise and pain. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper. "Help." Ethan knelt beside her, careful not to frighten her. He scanned her body. She had many injuries, broken bones, burns, and deep cuts, but she was alive. "We need to get you to the ship," Ethan said. "I can help." Lyra tried to sit up, but the pain stopped her. She looked at Ethan, her eyes full of fear and something else. Hope. Slowly, Ethan lifted her carefully. She was lighter than she looked, but fragile. He carried her back to the Endeavor, his mind racing. Who was she? Where did she come from? And why was she left alone here to die? Inside the ship, Ethan laid her on a soft bed in the medical bay. He worked quickly, cleaning her wounds and giving her medicine. Lyra's breathing became steadier, but her eyes stayed open, watching him closely. "You don't have to be afraid," Ethan said softly. "I'm here to help. You're safe now." Lyra blinked slowly. The pain in her eyes did not disappear, but she seemed to trust him, just a little. Outside the ship's window, the barren planet waited silently, but inside, a small light of hope had been kindled between two very different beings. An alien, left to die, and a human who would not let her. Ethan knew this was just the beginning. Their story was about to change everything. The hum of the ship's life support system was soft but steady. Inside the medical bay of the Endeavor, Captain Ethan Cole worked carefully. The alien woman, Lyra, lay on the narrow bed, her breathing slow but steady. Ethan cleaned the last of the cuts on her arm, his hands gentle yet sure. Ethan glanced at the small screen on the wall that showed her vital signs. They were weak, but stable. He knew he had to do more than just heal her wounds. He had to understand who she was and why she had been left alone on that barren planet. "Can you move?" Ethan asked softly. Lyra opened her eyes and tried to lift her hand. It trembled. She gave a small, tired nod. "Good," Ethan said with a smile. "I'm Ethan. What's your name?" Lyra's eyes searched his face. She seemed confused, but then she whispered. "Lyra." "Lyra," Ethan repeated. "That's a beautiful name." She gave a faint smile, though it was clear she was still in pain. Ethan looked around the room, thinking. Their languages were very different, but he hoped they could find a way to communicate. He activated a small holographic projector and showed simple symbols, images of a sun, a star, a planet. Lyra watched closely, nodding when she recognized something. It was a slow process, but a connection was starting. Outside the ship, the planet was quiet. The rocky ground was still dusty from the crash, but inside the Endeavor, something new was growing, a fragile trust. Ethan took a deep breath. "You're safe here, Lyra. I won't let anything hurt you." Lyra's eyes held a mix of sadness and hope. She looked down at her hands and then back at Ethan. Slowly, she moved her lips, forming words he did not understand. Ethan shook his head gently. "It's okay, we will learn your language, but for now, rest." As the hours passed, Ethan stayed by her side. He shared stories of his travels through the stars, of strange worlds and new friends. Lyra listened, her eyes brightening even as she remained quiet. Suddenly, the ship's alarm beeped sharply. Ethan stood up, heart pounding. The scanner showed something approaching fast, a small fleet of ships, dark and aggressive. They were closing in on the planet. Ethan's mind raced. "Lyra, we have company," he said quickly. "We need to get ready." Lyra's face changed. Fear flickered in her eyes. She tried to sit up but winced. Ethan helped her back gently. "What is it?" he asked. Lyra's voice was barely a whisper. "They come for me." Ethan nodded. He understood that whatever she had escaped from was now here searching. He moved to the ship's control panel. "We won't let them take you," he said firmly. "We will fight if we have to." Lyra reached out and touched Ethan's arm, her skin cool but steady. "Thank you," she said softly. Ethan smiled, feeling a new strength rise inside him. He was no longer just a lone explorer. Now he had a mission: protect this alien woman who had been left to die. The ships in the distance grew larger on the screen. Ethan started the Endeavor's defense systems, preparing for the battle ahead, but deep inside he hoped it would not come to that. For now he would keep Lyra safe, and together they would face whatever came next. The tension inside the Endeavor was thick as the approaching fleet loomed on the ship's radar. Captain Ethan Cole's fingers moved quickly over the controls, preparing for the worst. But before the enemy ships could reach the planet, a strange calm settled between Ethan and Lyra. Lyra lay on the medical bed, her breathing steady now, but her eyes remained wary. Ethan knew she carried more than physical wounds. She was burdened by memories and fears he could only guess at. Desperate to understand her, Ethan decided to try a different approach. He activated the ship's universal translator and brought up a simple interface with images and sounds. Carefully, he showed pictures of a human hand, a heart, a star, and then a picture of himself. Lyra's eyes followed each image. When she saw the heart, she nodded slightly. Then she pointed to her own chest and whispered, "Pain." Ethan felt a pang of sympathy. "I know," he said softly. "I have pain too." Lyra looked at him, searching. Slowly, she tried to speak again, her voice a soft melody of sounds Ethan didn't recognize. He smiled encouragingly. Over the next hours, their communication grew. Using images, gestures, and the translator, Ethan learned that Lyra's people were once powerful conquerors. They traveled the stars, taking what they wanted and showing little mercy. But Lyra had seen the cruelty and wanted something else, a chance for peace. Ethan listened, fascinated by her honesty. "Humans are not perfect," he said, "but we believe in hope. We believe in change." Lyra's eyes brightened, and for a moment she seemed less like a stranger from another world and more like a kindred spirit. As they shared stories, the threat outside continued to grow. The enemy fleet was closing fast, but Ethan's focus remained on Lyra. He felt a growing responsibility to protect her, not just from danger, but from loneliness. "Why did they leave you?" Ethan asked carefully. Lyra's face darkened. "They feared me. I wanted to stop the pain, to stop the fighting. They said I was weak." Ethan shook his head. "Sometimes the strongest are those who choose peace." Lyra reached out and touched his hand. The warmth of her touch surprised Ethan. It was a simple connection, but it said more than words could. Suddenly, the ship's warning system beeped loudly. The enemy was launching an attack. Ethan stood, his eyes sharp and ready. "We have to prepare," he said, but before the battle he looked back at Lyra. "We'll face this together." Lyra nodded, determination shining in her eyes. For the first time since the crash, she felt hope, not just for survival, but for a new beginning. Outside the window, the stars seemed to watch silently as two very different beings prepared to stand side by side. The dark shapes of enemy ships filled the sky above the rocky planet. Ethan watched the view screen of the Endeavor as the hostile fleet closed in. Their engines burned bright, casting harsh light across the barren landscape below. The enemy wanted Lyra back, or worse. Inside the ship, Ethan moved quickly, preparing defenses and checking the systems. The Endeavor was no warship, but Ethan knew how to make the most of its speed and agility. He was determined to protect Lyra at all costs. Lyra sat quietly in the medical bay, her silver skin pale under the bright lights. She had regained some strength, but the fear in her eyes had not disappeared. The memories of her people hunting her haunted her. "They are coming," Ethan said softly, sensing her tension. "We have to move." Lyra nodded, but when Ethan helped her to her feet, her body trembled. Her injuries were still serious. Ethan gently supported her. "We will find a way," he promised. Outside, the enemy ships descended, their weapons charging. Ethan piloted the Endeavor with steady hands. The ship lifted off, rising from the dusty ground into the thin atmosphere. The chase began. Ethan dodged blasts of energy as the enemy fired. The Endeavor darted between rocks and cliffs, using every skill Ethan had learned over years of space travel. Lyra watched the battle from the cockpit, fear mixed with determination. "We can't keep this up forever," Ethan said, eyes focused on the controls. Lyra placed her hand on his arm, surprising him with her calm touch. "Use the caves," she said in a low voice. Ethan turned to her. "Caves?" "Yes," she replied. "A place to hide, I know." He glanced at the planet's surface below, spotting a series of dark openings in the rocky cliffs. It was risky, but it might be their only chance. Ethan nodded. "Hold on." The Endeavor dove toward the caves. Enemy ships followed, firing relentlessly. Inside the caves, the light was dim and strange shadows danced on the walls. Ethan slowed the ship, careful to avoid crashing. The enemy ships hesitated outside the narrow entrances. For a moment, silence fell. Ethan looked at Lyra. "This is safe for now." Lyra breathed deeply, relief washing over her face. "Thank you," she whispered. They knew the enemy would not give up easily, but here, in the dark quiet of the caves, they could catch their breath and plan their next move. Ethan checked the ship's sensors. The enemy ships were waiting, but the caves blocked most of their attacks. "We need a plan," Ethan said. Lyra nodded slowly. "I can help," she said. "There is a way to fight without weapons." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Lyra's eyes glowed softly. "My people have powers. I can use them to protect us." Ethan watched her carefully. He did not know what to expect, but he trusted her. "Show me," he said quietly. Lyra closed her eyes and focused. A soft light began to shine from her hands. The air around them seemed to hum with energy. Ethan felt a strange warmth. The light grew brighter, pushing back the darkness of the cave. Suddenly, a sharp sound echoed from outside. The enemy was trying to force their way in. Lyra opened her eyes, glowing with power. She stood beside Ethan, ready to face whatever came next. Together, human and alien prepared to fight not just for survival, but for hope. The dark cave trembled as the enemy ships tried to break through. Outside, the sound of heavy energy blasts echoed through the rock. Dust fell from the ceiling. Ethan stood ready by the control panel of the Endeavor, eyes fixed on the scanner. They were surrounded, but not yet caught. Beside him, Lyra stood calmly, her hands glowing with soft blue light. The air around her was warm, and the energy from her body filled the space with a strange peace. Ethan watched her with quiet wonder. "What is that light?" he asked. Lyra looked at her glowing hands. "It is called Soul Force. Only a few from my world can use it. It comes from deep inside, from truth, from kindness, from the will to protect." Ethan nodded slowly. "That's rare. On Earth, most of our power comes from machines. But your power is different." Lyra gave a gentle smile. "That is why they feared me. I chose to protect, not destroy." The ground shook again. The enemy had found a weak point in the cave wall. Ethan took a breath. "We may not have much time." "I know," Lyra said, "but we still have a chance. If I use my soul force at full strength, I can create a shield around this cave." "That will protect the ship?" "Yes," she said, "and you." Ethan's expression changed. "What about you?" Lyra looked down. "It will make me weak. Maybe too weak. But I want to do it. You gave me hope, Ethan. You saved me." Ethan stepped closer. "Lyra, I didn't save you just to lose you again. We'll find another way." She reached out and held his hand. Her skin was cool but steady. "You helped me feel alive again. Let me do the same for you." Outside, the enemy ships began to send small drones through cracks in the rock. Ethan watched them approach on the screen. "They're coming." Lyra closed her eyes. A soft blue glow rose from her whole body. Light spread across the ship's floor, touching the walls, the panels, even Ethan. He felt warmth like standing under the morning sun after a cold night. The drones entered the cave, but the moment they came close, the light struck them. One by one, they dropped to the ground, silent and harmless. The shield worked. Lyra fell to one knee, her breath quick and shallow. Ethan rushed to her side. "Lyra!" She opened her eyes slowly. "I'm still here. Just tired." Ethan helped her sit down, his heart heavy with worry. "Rest. I'll hold the line from here." But deep down, Ethan knew this wasn't over. The enemy wasn't going to leave so easily. Suddenly, a transmission came through the comm system. A deep voice filled the cabin. "Give her to us. She does not belong with your kind. She is broken, weak." Ethan's jaw tightened. He replied without hesitation. "She's not broken. She's more powerful than all of you because she chose peace." There was silence on the other end. Then the voice returned, colder than before. "Then you will fall with her." Ethan ended the call and turned back to Lyra. She was weak but smiling. "You stood up for me," she said softly. "Of course," Ethan replied. "You're not alone anymore." Lyra leaned her head back, closing her eyes. "Thank you." As the enemy prepared for one final attack, Ethan placed a hand gently over Lyra's. He wasn't just protecting a stranger anymore. He was protecting someone who had become part of his life, and he wouldn't let her go. The cave was quiet now, but tension still hung in the air. The blue glow from Lyra's soul force shield had faded, leaving only soft shadows on the rocky walls. Ethan helped Lyra to her feet. She was still weak, but her spirit remained strong. "We can't stay here," Ethan said. "They will find us soon." Lyra nodded slowly. There is a ship nearby. A small one. It can take us away. How do you know this? Ethan asked. Lyra's eyes grew distant. I saw it before I crashed. It was hidden in the valley, under the rocks. Ethan looked at the planet below through the ship's viewport. The rocky landscape stretched endlessly, but in the distance, a small glint caught his eye. There, he said, pointing. Carefully, Ethan piloted the Endeavor out of the caves. The enemy ships circled above, searching, but had not yet discovered their hiding place. They touched down near a cluster of large boulders. Ethan and Lyra stepped out, moving quickly but quietly across the rough ground. The small ship was covered in dust and scratches, but it looked intact, a sleek craft faster than the Endeavor. Lyra approached it and gently ran her hand over the surface. This is ours. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Yours? Lyra nodded. Mine and my people's. I never wanted to use it, but now I must. Ethan began checking the ship's systems. Power was low, but could be restored with some effort. We need to move fast, Ethan said. The enemy won't wait forever. Together they worked to repair the ship. Ethan was amazed at how quickly Lyra understood the technology. Despite her weakened state, her mind was sharp. Hours passed and the stars began to shine above. Finally, the ship's systems hummed to life. Ethan looked at Lyra. Ready? She nodded. Yes. They climbed inside. Ethan took the pilot's seat, and Lyra sat beside him, still tired but determined. The engines roared as the ship lifted off. Outside, the rocky planet grew smaller beneath them. The enemy fleet was still searching, but the small ship was fast and agile. Ethan pushed it to its limits, weaving through asteroid belts and dodging enemy fire. Lyra reached out, touching the controls. Her eyes closed, and a soft light glowed from her fingertips. Suddenly, the ship surged forward, faster than Ethan thought possible. It was as if her soul force was guiding them through space. Thank you, Ethan said quietly. Lyra smiled. You saved me. Now I help you. For the first time in many days, Ethan felt hope. Not just for survival, but for the future. The stars streaked past them. They left danger behind, but their journey was far from over. Together they would find a new path, a path of peace and trust, and perhaps a new home. The small ship flew through the vast darkness of space, its engines humming softly as it carried Ethan and Lyra farther from the danger they had escaped. Outside the window, stars glittered like tiny jewels scattered across the black sky. Inside the cabin, the tension from their recent fight had faded, replaced by a quiet peace. Lyra rested against the seat, still, weak but growing stronger every moment. Ethan watched her with a mix of admiration and care. We're safe now, Ethan said softly. For the first time in a long time, Lyra opened her eyes and smiled faintly. Because of you. Ethan shook his head gently. No. Because of us. Together we survived. Lyra reached out and took Ethan's hand. Her skin was cool, but the touch felt warm. I was left to die, she whispered. But you showed me hope. You gave me a reason to live. Ethan squeezed her hand. And you gave me a reason to fight, for something better. They both looked out the window as a distant blue planet grew larger in the view. It was a new world full of promise and unknown adventures. This planet, Ethan said, is uninhabited, quiet. We can start fresh there. Lyra nodded. A place to heal, a place to build. The ship landed gently on the soft soil of the planet. The air outside was clean and fresh, and the sky was painted in soft shades of purple and pink by the setting sun. Ethan stepped outside, taking a deep breath of the new world's air. Lyra followed, her steps slow but steady. Together they walked toward the horizon, two very different beings united by trust and hope. For days they explored the planet. They found clear streams, tall trees, and wide fields filled with colorful flowers. The land was alive and welcoming, a sharp contrast to the harsh places they had left behind. At night, under a blanket of stars, Ethan and Lyra talked about their dreams and fears. They shared stories of their pasts and plans for the future. Slowly, a bond grew stronger, a friendship that felt like family. One evening, as they watched the stars, Lyra turned to Ethan. "I have a gift for you," she said softly. Ethan looked at her, curious. She reached into a small pouch and pulled out a glowing stone. The light inside it pulsed gently, warm and steady. "This stone holds my people's light," Lyra explained. "It will bring you rest when you are tired. It will protect you when you are in danger." Ethan took the stone carefully. He felt a calm energy flow through him. "Thank you," he said sincerely. "I will keep it always." Lyra smiled, her eyes shining with hope. "And I will stay. This is our new home." Ethan nodded, feeling a deep peace he had never known before. They stood side by side, looking out at the endless sky. The past, the pain, the fear, the loneliness, was behind them. Ahead lay a future full of possibilities. Together, human and alien, they had found more than survival. They had found hope, friendship, and a new beginning.